Hello, good morning. All right, I just want to make sure I'm live before I start. I've turned into that person. It's tough on Facebook to determine when you're actually live. Okay, cool. Awesome. Hey, good morning. Okay, so it is a new week. It's Tuesday, which means we have a new podcast episode that dropped today. Today's podcast episode at Small Biz Mama, which you can go to smallbizmama.com or look up Small Biz Mama anywhere podcasts can be listened to. We're all over the place. So this is the third podcast episode that I'm doing with Jeff, and because a whole bunch of you have kind of asked, like, how do we make all this work, right? So if you don't know, Jeff and I are both home with Eric all the time. Okay. Hey, good morning. Good morning, guys. Um, and so how do we make this whole thing work? How do we, you know, we've basically, it's funny because I think we said last week that we had actually been together for the vast majority of the time for the last year. Okay. So since everything shut down, um, we have been, we work together behind this bookcase. Okay, that you're behind the bookcase is Jeff's desk on the other side. So we share an office. We share raising Eric together. Um, we're living together, hanging out together, all the things. Okay, so 2 weeks ago we did an episode on life. Okay, and just basically like winning at life. Then we did one at winning at business, and this week's episode, which just dropped this morning, is about parenting. And I think that is one of the biggest questions that I get is how we make all this work with a 3-year-old, right? And I know like some of you have multiple kids and you're homeschooling and you're trying to do all the things. And so I want you to listen to episodes. Like I said, you can go to smallbizmama.com. You can listen to it there. You can search Small Biz Mama anywhere you listen to podcasts. But I wanted to talk about a couple things that I think are really critically important to making parenting and business win at the same time. Okay. So, one thing that is really important, and I don't think it's ever too late to do this, and this is a really good skill for your kids to have no matter what. Um, you need to encourage independence in your children. And I know that that's hard for a lot of moms to do that. But this is a great skill for your kids to have. Like, here's the thing, right? So not only am I a mom, but I've also taught in college for the last 13 years. And I see the negative effects of parents not instilling independence in their children. Okay, I see this all the time. Kids aren't advocating for themselves when something goes wrong. They don't know what to do when things go wrong. They don't know how to plan their own schedules. And I did a whole episode, you can search for it on the website, on things you can do to make sure your kids are successful in college before they even start kindergarten. Okay, and there's a whole episode on that. But independence is really important when you are trying to get other things done while your kids are home. And we kind of got lucky. We defaulted to this because Eric was born at the end of December. Okay, he was born like 4 days before tax season started, literally. So we're sitting there, we have this newborn, and we're like, all right, so tax season. Like, people are dropping off their paperwork and they want their taxes done. How do we make this happen with a newborn? And so we had Eric, set up, literally, so we weren't in this office. We were actually downstairs at the time. We had actually converted our family room into an office. And Jeff and I, we had our desks in the living room, and between the two of us, so it was like, imagine I'm here Jeff's desk would have been kind of over there on the wall over there, and Eric was like in his pack and play, right? That was made, the infant pack and play, right between us, and he would sleep in there, and we would feed him, and we would wear him, we'd hold him while we were doing work. And literally, that's how we got through that first tax season. And then once he started walking, things got, things were a little bit rougher. But he would play right on the floor while we were working. And helping him foster a mindset that I can play on my own, I can entertain myself. It still kind of amazes me, at 3, that he'll be playing and all of a sudden he'll kind of stop what he's doing and he will walk over and pick up a book and just kind of flip through and look at the pictures, and he'll tell himself the story. And I think a lot of that is just that we didn't feel like we had to entertain him all the time. And even now, it's kind of funny. He'll be like, "I'm bored," and I'm like, "Okay, I understand that you're bored, and I appreciate you telling me that. But it's okay to be bored sometimes. So what can you do to not be bored?" And so, but that's something we've kind of always fostered him. So I think that that's really important, is fostering a mentality of independence in your children, right? And having them find something to do, right? We don't always have to be the driver of our children's activity. And I think one of the interesting things about COVID, and I don't know how this is going for you guys, but not having all of the activities all the time, right? How has that changed your family's dynamic? How has that changed your children and their ability to be able to find things to do on their own? Because I know parents that, they pick up their kids from school and it's activity, 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 and then they're eating in the back of the car, in order to get some food in the kids so that they can get them home to do a little bit of homework and then get them to bed. And that was one thing that we, when we found out that we were pregnant and we started thinking about, okay, what do we want things to look like with Eric? We knew we were going to be home with him, but we wanted to make sure that, hey, good morning, Tiffany, that we didn't pack the schedule, right? That we wanted to make sure that Eric had the space to explore things on his own. That was really important to us. So when you're kind of looking at your kids' schedules, think about that. How much breathing room do my kids have? How much space do they have to figure out things on their own, to pick what they're going to do, and to not have their schedule just constantly packed with the next thing, right? And so I think that really helps, okay? So in addition to independence, another thing that helps, and I understand this is, this is hard with the pandemic, is we need to be realistic about what we can get done with our children at home. Okay, and that's going to depend on age. It's going to depend on where you are with working on independence, because independence is not something you don't and independence. It doesn't work that way. It's something that you have to work on. Okay, it's something that you have to foster. So, and Jeff and I talk about this in the episode a little bit, but Jeff really struggled. So let me step back a little bit. So what we do in our house is Jeff and I split the day. So in the morning, Jeff watches Eric. In the afternoon, I watch Eric. And the reason that we do it that way is because with tax season, we have to, I just have more work. that happens. So we shift a little bit more towards, you know, more towards Jeff watching Eric. And so what we do is we split the day. So like after I get off this call with you guys, we are I go downstairs, we all have lunch together, and then I do cuddles with Eric and reading with Eric, and I put Eric down for his nap. Okay. Now, yeah, this is one thing that we did is we gave up a lot of stuff. Okay, so let me go back. Teresa said you're so blessed to have your husband split the day with you. So we gave up a lot of stuff in order to initially do this. Right? So we really looked at our lives and said, what is important to us? And for us, it wasn't the house, it wasn't cars, it wasn't stuff. It was being together. And so we looked at our income and we said, okay, what is like the minimum viable income that we can live off of at this point so that we can make this dream a reality? Right? And so I know for a lot of you, you're the one that's home, right? And that was me when I first started my business. I was the one that was home. And I said, okay, what do I have to grow at home? Or what does Jeff have to grow at home, right? Because Jeff has his own income streams as well, so that we can make this happen, right? And we have to do this in a boundary where we're not working all the time, right? Because if you're just working all the time from home, then that doesn't change anything either, right? That doesn't change anything because you still, if you're working from home 40 hours a week and your husband's working from home 40 hours a week, you're still not getting where you want to be, right? You just have less commute. Okay? And so that's where thinking about the type of work you're going to do is critically important. Okay? And that's why I love bookkeeping, because I can do it in a very short period of time. I can get it done. It's good billable money, right? It's a good hourly rate for the amount of work that I'm doing. And then I can go off and enjoy my family. Right? So that's why I love bookkeeping and I love taxes, because it allows me to do that. Okay? So when I'm planning my work day, okay, and I always do this. Let me go back to the nap. When I'm planning my work day, I say, okay, I am going to plan my work day as if Eric is not going to sleep. And if Eric does sleep, what is bonus work that I can get done with Eric sleeping? Okay? And I know some of you are in that transition point where you may not have kids, your kids aren't sleeping, but they're not old enough yet to be able to, to be self-directed without you. And that's where quiet time is incredibly important. Okay, if you are not doing quiet time with your preschoolers, quiet time, okay, is something that you need to work into the schedule. So quiet time, okay, and this is gonna the length of this is gonna depend on your kid. And again, this is another learned thing, especially if you've gone from nap to no nap. Right? And now you're trying to do quiet time. Okay? Because what we did with Eric is we said, okay, listen, you have to go into your room. You don't have to nap. But he still naps a lot of the time. He's got some books. He's got some quiet toys. He's got his stuffed animals in there. You will be in your room, and his room is right next door. Right? So I can hear him. If he's not sleeping, I can hear if something happens. But he will go into his room. We do the lineup just like he's going to take a nap. Okay? So we go lay down, right? We read a book together. Okay, we do hugs and kisses just as if we're going to nap. And I say, okay, remember, okay, this is quiet time. If you'd like to take a nap, great. Otherwise, you can play with your stuff. You have all this stuff you can play with. Okay, mommy's going to go get some work done. Okay. And so he's got his time. And I'll tell you, even if he has a good rest time, even if he doesn't sleep, it's way better than him not having rest time at all for both of us. Okay? And so I think if you're not doing that with your younger kids, it's a beautiful thing to do. It really is. Okay, it's a beautiful thing to do. And I'll tell you that I would say at least 80% of the time, maybe a little bit more than that, he's taking some sort of nap. It's definitely not as long as his afternoon nap used to be, but he is taking some sort of nap. But what I do in that time, that's my bonus time, right? So right now, like I said, when I finish this call, I'm gonna go downstairs. I'm gonna have lunch with Eric and Jeff. My most important work for the day is done. So when Eric's doing his rest time, if all goes well, that's bonus time for me. Okay? I think what we do far too often is that we expect that everything is going to go perfectly. Right? Do you guys do that? You're like, I'm going to schedule my day as if everything is going to be perfect. Everything is going to be awesome. It's going to be the best day ever. Nothing's going to go wrong. There's going to be no distraction. And that's how I'm going to plan my day. And if it doesn't go that way, then the whole day is going to crash and burn. Okay? I'm going to plan every single second, every single moment. And if it doesn't go that way, the whole day is going to fall apart. Do you ever do that? Do you ever do that? That was my recipe for disaster. Okay, as a mom business owner. And so what I do is I say, okay, if I only get to work, and sometimes for you guys, you're going to have to say, listen, if I only get to work an hour after my kids go to bed, what can I get done that? What can I get done in that time? If that's all the time I have, what can I get done in that time? Okay. Then you start to think, okay, if I have a little bit more time, so what I do in my planner is I've got my big 3 items, and my big 3 items have to fit into my morning time slot. Okay? Anything other than that is bonus. And sometimes, like last night, I was coming up with kind of my content idea for next month and what we're going to do with the podcast and social and these lives and so I'm like, you know what, after Eric goes to bed, I'm going to work on that for a little bit. So I worked on that for like an hour. That was bonus time. That wasn't something I'm like, oh my God, I have to get this done. And it has to be, it was bonus time. Okay. So if you start to think of your schedule in terms of your absolute must-dos, which should be small in number, okay? Which should be small in number. And then what are the things that if I had a little bit more time, I would do this? Okay. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Yeah, I know. That's all. Because those of you that are in bookkeeper training school, you say that all the time. Right? And I can tell. So if you're not in bookkeeper training school, we have this assessment that I have you guys do pretty early in the course. That I have you basically write out, I have you budget all your time for the week. Just to get an idea of how full your week is. And we have some people, there's 168 hours in a week. We have some people who do it, and they say, oh my God, I don't know what I do with all my time. And then I have the vast majority of moms that do it. It's funny because when I have college students do it, college students are like, I don't know where all my time goes. Moms are like, hi, can I have another half a person, please? I need another like 80 hours to be able to get it all done. Okay. And I can tell that, I think most moms, they're trying to jam so much stuff into, and I know most of you are not getting as much sleep as you should be, So into like 20 hours a day, maybe 18 hours a day. That if anything goes wrong, or even if it's like, oh my God, my mom's on the phone. I can't, this 10 minutes is just going to blow everything out of the water, time wise. So that's one thing. I was just going through a challenge with Greg McEwen, and Greg McEwen is the author of Essentialism. Those of you that are in bookkeeper training school, it's one of the recommended books. I absolutely love it. It just came out in paperback, and if you get in paperback, you get a 21-day challenge with him. It's called Essentialism, the Disciplined Pursuit of Less. I love this book. I absolutely love this book. And I just went through a challenge with him, and he said, when you're going through your schedule, go through and block off a couple half-hour blocks where there's just nothing on them. Okay, and I have this, I actually have this here if you look at my schedule, okay, see how there's like these little pieces of tape there? Those are my blanks, okay? So I have one about midday, and I have one before I go to bed, okay? And those blanks are just for like little catch-up times. Okay. So even if right now, if you're kind of struggling, like if you're at that point where like, okay, if everything doesn't go perfect in my day, I just need to have, everything has to go perfect. Try to schedule in. I typically have one between Eric going to bed and me going to bed. A little block. Sometimes I have one first thing in the morning before the day begins. Just to kind of have a little bit of time to say, okay, I need this space. And sometimes that space is to do home stuff. Sometimes that space is to do work stuff. And so for those of you who are in transition, right? I know some of you are in transition between the job and the business, right? And you're trying to start up the business so you can quit the job. Okay? What I find, and this is temporary. Typically, to find that extra time to work on the things that I want to learn, right, that are outside the norm, I'm either waking up a half an hour early, I'm doing it right after Eric goes to bed, and you know what, sometimes if you're not doing quiet time, send your kids to bed a little bit early. Okay? I know I have this thing like, oh my God, my kids don't go to bed until 8 o'clock, and then by the time they actually settle down, it's 9 o'clock, and then I'm so tired I need to go to bed. Send your kids to bed a little bit earlier. Okay? Give them time to wind down from their day, just like you need time to wind down from your day. Okay? It's okay. If you need to build in that time, do that. If you have support at home, maybe your significant other does bedtime so that you can have a little bit of time. Okay? We need to learn to ask for help. We need to learn to ask for help. How many of you go with the children from the time that you wake up in the morning until the time your children go to bed? And there is somebody else in the house that could help. That is one thing that has really made parenting helpful, like joyful in our house. Okay? Even though, we're both working, right? Because we both have roles in the company. We're both working. Neither one of us is, okay, well, I'm the stay-at-home parent, you're the working parent, and so clearly I'm the only parent. And I know a lot of times as moms we do that, right? Um, where we say, "No, I'm sorry, Sarah, I'm not on Zoom. I'm just on Facebook." Um, I think very often we say, "I'm the mom and I'm only working part-time or I'm not working, and so therefore I have to be the parent all the time." No. If you have a significant other in your life that is, the parent of your children who is in the house with you, they need to help with the parenting. Okay. And I get, well, they work all day and they work so hard and you work so hard too. You know, Jeff and I have always been very conscious of the fact that we are parenting together. We're doing life together, we're doing business together, we're doing parenting together. And so what does that look like in our house? Sometimes that looks like, well, actually every day, or most days, I guess, because some days we switch off. Jeff does morning. Okay? Jeff does morning. Now, if Jeff has an early morning appointment, or sometimes I just want to let Jeff sleep in, then I do morning. Okay? But the vast majority of the time, I wake up at 6, I hop in the shower. If Eric wakes up between the time that, before we're both ready to go downstairs, Jeff will take Eric downstairs and he'll make him breakfast and he'll have breakfast. Okay. Sometimes if we're both kind of like slogging in the morning, like, you have those mornings you're like, oh, I don't want to get up and my son's awake. Okay. Sometimes we'll say, okay, you know what? All right, I'm going to hop in the shower. You're going to watch TV with Daddy. Daddy's going to sleep in a little bit. And then when Mommy gets out of the shower, Daddy will get in the shower. And then we'll all go downstairs together and we'll have breakfast. Okay? And sometimes we do that. But there is a misconception in this country that if somebody goes off to work, then they don't have to deal with parenting. Well, unless you're the mom, right? Because how many of you are moms who are working full time, and yet you're working full time and you're still momming? Yeah. Yeah. No. Guys, moms, ladies, I love you. Okay? You did not bring these children into the world by yourself. Okay? Parenting is a team sport. Okay? Okay? Yeah, no, that's not, no. It's not how this works. Okay? And here's the thing. And I know for like a lot of you, like your spouses are like way on board with this bookkeeping thing. You're like, oh my God, yes, let's make some extra money. Okay? Let's make some extra money, right? How many of your spouses are like, yes, let's make extra money. Yes, you go do the bookkeeping thing. Love it. Yes. Okay? Okay, and I know for some of you it's all you. I know for some of you it's all you. Okay? But I also know there's a lot of you that it's not just you. Okay? All right, and Melissa, I want you to go back because there's a whole bunch of things that you can use in here, okay, with your daughter to help you out. This whole like mom does everything thing has got to stop. Got to stop. Okay, because I know your husband's like, oh my God, this is so exciting, and now I'm gonna get retired and da 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 da. Yeah, we got to get, in order to be able to build this, you got to have a conversation with the people in your house that if things are going to change, I need your help. Okay? And sometimes this is a conversation you need to have with your teenagers. Okay? Because I know some of you have older kids. You got to say, look, mom is trying to do this thing so that we all have more time, so that we are all, we're all doing better. But in order for me to do that, I need your help. And that's a conversation you can have with your kids. That's a conversation that you can have with your teenagers, your preteens. I need your help. Okay. For the family to do better. And I think this is sometimes what happens. We are not thinking about the family. Okay. Somehow it turns into, okay, well, I've got the kids and this one's making the money. And so we're not thinking about this as, like, we are Team Ingram in our house. Okay. And we are all working together. Even Eric, we are all working together to make this work. And so sometimes, like, okay, Eric's 3 years old. Sometimes I have to sit down and say, listen, okay, mommy's trying to do this, right? So that we can all play a game tonight. Okay? And so let's get, I need your help. So if you can help me right now, we can do this together. I am on fire after the seminar yesterday. I told the mister I'm now doing the dishes tonight. Okay, he says, they're still in the sink. Test 1, he failed. He will catch up. Watch this space. So, so sometimes it's really hard because you've got to figure, and I know some of you have been together with your spouses for a long time. Sometimes this is retraining, right? If things have always been a certain way, it's really tough. And so sometimes the thing is too is that if you want them to do it, it's not going to be done exactly the way we want it done. It's not going to be done on the time frame that we want it done. But it will get done. Hopefully. Okay? All right, so Melissa says, I've been trying to implement some of the stuff like quiet time. It's been rough because she doesn't get one-on-one time with me much at work. So she's like, Mom, I want you, and getting clingy. So it's been fun, and nighttime has been even worse. Okay, so one thing that we've done, we're trying this with Eric, because Eric has the same thing with me, right? So especially with nap time and quiet time and whatnot, he doesn't get a lot of one-on-one time with me. So one thing that we're working on with him is that when it is my time to be with him, like, I am focused. Phone is down. Everything is off. He and I are doing something meaningful. So like last night, we did bath time, and then after bath time, I said, you know what, Eric, let's go get a game. I said, what game would you like to play? He's like, I want to play Candyland. I said, okay. So he was all ready for bed. We all sat down on the floor and we played Candyland, which I have to say, for the fact that it was like bedtime, we did really well with Candyland. I was a little worried that it wasn't going to go well. We sat down, we were all focused, and then we read a book. We did hugs and kisses, and he went to bed better than he has probably in a week. And I think it was because he had, we did an activity together. You can do a puzzle. You can do, you can do a puzzle. You can do a game. You could do some coloring. It all depends on what stage your kids are at. For some of your kids, it might be, to watch a documentary together, or watch, plan in some time to watch a movie together. Think about, what is that thing that will help create the connection, settle your kids in, especially at bedtime, right? Settle them in for good sleep. Okay? And I find that sometimes, Melissa, what I do with Eric, if I really need to get some work done, I will, and this is not ideal, but it's not an ideal world right now. I'll sit down with him and say, listen, let's watch some TV together. Okay? He loves Mickey Mouse Clubhouse right now. we'll sit down and he'll like I'll bring my computer in and I'll work next to him. I'll have my headphones, I've got my earbuds. I know a whole bunch of you that are in bookkeeper training school have seen these. And I'll put these in. And then, we're, I've got this in. I'm listening to my trainings that I need to do. And Eric is next to me. And, he's getting his time. And a lot of times I'll actually have my arm around him, you know. I was scheduled for a Zoom meeting yesterday at 4, and you would think my husband would make my son something to eat at 3:40, but no, I'm at the stove cooking and trying to get ready for a meeting. Okay, so here's what we do when we have those situations in our house. Okay, because we have that situation today. Today, I have to bring a cat to the vet. Okay, because Jeff is going to be on another call. Jeff has an alarm set on his phone to make sure that dinner gets prepped on time. Okay? And so I think that, putting systems in place, right? And I forget things too, right? What are systems that you can put in place so that the family can be successful? Right? So the family can be successful. Okay? And then just see what you can, and I would ask for input. Be like, okay, listen. Like, Jeff and I, this is another thing that we do. Jeff and I, on Sundays, sit down and say, okay, what does your week look like? What does my week look like? When do I need to cover? When do you need to cover? What is going on? So that everybody's on the same page. Okay? That has been incredibly helpful as well. Okay? But I regularly sit down with Jeff, especially when there's something that we're having like an issue with. And I say, okay, how can we set up a system so that we all win? And when you approach it that way, because I think sometimes what happens in situations like this, especially when, you're trying to build something, is it becomes this us versus them kind of thing, right? Where, oh, well, she's trying to do her thing and I can't do my thing because she's going to do her thing. And now she wants me to do this and help the kids. And where, when you say it is about all of us winning, right? It's about the kids winning. It's about us winning as a family. It flips a switch. Okay. Especially in guys. Yeah, so Melissa's talking about, her kid likes, her daughter likes to dance. Dance parties are really good. Eric went through a phase where he had a lot of energy at the end of the day, so we would actually like dance and we'd run around his room as he was getting dressed. That really helps. And the laptop thing, that's a teaching moment, right? That's a boundary thing. And it's tough when they're two. But teaching like, no, this is mommy's. You can't touch this. Sometimes bring the stuffed animal in will help. Sometimes I find, it's teaching the no touching thing. So you might have to do it for like a minute and then put it down and then try to pick it up again. And say, no, this is mommy's, right? It's with anything like you don't want your kids to touch. It's not going to happen overnight. It's introducing and reintroducing and reintroducing so that, we're teaching our kids how to behave in those situations. It's tough. None of this is easy. Okay. I'm not going to pretend that it is, but looking at it and saying, okay, what can we do so that the family does better? Right? And so sometimes that's stepping back a little bit and saying, okay, I need to teach my child something. right? I need to put a schedule in place for us. I need to get my spouse on board. I need to get my teenagers on board. Whatever it is, it's all working together as a family in order for us to all do better. Okay? So, sorry, this has gone way longer than I thought I was going to go today, but I hope that you found something helpful in it. Go check out the podcast episode where Jeff and I kind of talk together and you get to hear, his perspective and my perspective together. It might be good, those of you that are kind of struggling with a spouse, that you might want to put those 3 podcast episodes on, and just kind of have them playing on your phone in the background, while your spouse is around. That might be helpful too. Okay. But in order for all of this to work, in order for life to work, right, we all have to be a family, right? We have to be a group. Oh, Melissa, that's awesome. I'm so, so happy for you. That is a tough road, but that's awesome. Great job. All right. Ladies, have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And remember, we all have to work together to make this life work. All right. Take care. Bye.